Hi everyone. Here is one of the games played by one of my club mates, Andrew Horton, who is 155 ECF on the new list, and his grade has gone up by 18 points. So well done to him. And his opponent was Paul Calderon, who is 132 ECF. This is a prestigious tournament, this, because it's like the best under 13s in the country against each other for money and the title. And the time control is like a congress where you get an hour and 40 for 40 moves, and then you get 20 back to finish the game. And anyway, here is one of the games. The tournament actually isn't quite over yet. There is one more round tomorrow. And here it is. So Andy was white and kicked off with e4 question mark, after which comes c5, knight c3, knight c6 and f4, the Grand Prix attack, which is played by some strong players like Gawain Jones, who held Adams to a draw as black early today in the main championship, and is over 2600. This opening is very popular at club level because it is easy to play, it offers attacking chances, and it also avoids the mainline Sicillian theory, because if you do like the open Sicilians, you can get caught out by not knowing a subtle nuance or a theoretical novelty device that moved 27 by some Russian grandmaster or something like that, or the 20-second move novelty in the dragon, or and all that. So it's pretty good at avoiding theory. Now comes d6, knight f3, g6, and white can either put the bishop on c4 or b5. I see this in one of two ways. Some of you, if you disagree with me, then please write in the comments box. If black plays e6, then white should put the bishop on b5. If d6, white should put the bishop on c4, which Andy does. My theory is that because the pawn has moved to d6, that if black ever manages to hit it with d5, then black's lost the move. Whereas if the pawn's on e6, then black can easily go d5 in one move with advantage by hitting the bishop. d4, however, is vital to control d4 in this opening, so black thin shadows on g7 and then usually plants a knight on d4. And if white does play bishop b5 instead of bishop c4, you can counter it with knight d4, although not. Well, that's when you play e6. However, now comes bishop g7, castles, e6. And now white lashes out with f5, trying to exploit the fact that black hasn't castled and white has. However, this isn't completely sound because black would have just gone e takes f5, e takes f5, bishop takes f5, and although white has some compensation, it probably isn't enough. It's best to play f5 as a pawn sack when black can't take with a piece, and then at least there'll be double. He'll have a really fractured kingside pawn structure. Instead came knight f6, f takes e6, f takes e6, and now white maybe should have tried to open the game up before black castles. And I'm going to show you an example variation of where white takes advantage of the fact that black hasn't castled. d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, and now you're probably all thinking that black has the tactical shot knight takes e4, which not only is there a potential thought with d5, but also there is two pieces all of a sudden on the white knight on d4. However, white has knight takes e6, bishop takes e6, bishop takes e6, and if bishop takes c3, then bishop f7 check, king d7, queen g4 check, forking the knight and king. If king e7, then that is hammered by this continuation and mate. If the better king c7, then queen takes e4, and white has got a very, very good position. Once the black bishop moves, the white bishop will enter the game, the rook will come in, the black king will die. However, white is a bit more cautious and plays d3, which is also sufficient for an advantage. Castles, queen e1, preparing to swing the queen in via h4 and exert some pressure on h7. Knight a5. This is a bit nebulous because black shouldn't be manoeuvring his knight all the way to the queen side just to try and win the bishop pair. Black should be prepared to defend the king side. I mean, you can tell that white's going to get some kind of kingside attack by the last move, queen e1, because the queen is going to be better placed on h4. Maybe moving the f6 knight is good, because if white's queen comes to h4, then the endgames are usually better for black in the Grand Prix. So knight a5, bishop b3, stronger is e5, d takes e5, bishop g5, knight takes, pawn takes, and after queen b6, knight takes e5. Black shouldn't take on b2, because then the white rook gets into the game with tempo, and white's strong knight here gives him an advantage. And white's also threatening stuff like queen h4 and all sorts of nasties. And the pawn on c4 helps because it blocks black's queen's action. Because one of the main defaults of the Grand Prix is that when you play f4, it opens the king up a bit, so there's potential for like queens coming to b6 and then c4 checks and all that. So bishop b3 takes, a takes, and now knight d7, a really bad move. The knight is being, although it opens up the f file, the knight is being moved away from the king's side, which is where black's weakest, and it also blocks the bishop in. Knight g4 is preferred, and white should only have a slight advantage here. White is quick to pounce on this and plays bishop g5, queen b6, threatening c4 checks, so king h1, getting off the dangerous diagonal, queen c6, queen h4, now the queen has come in, knight b6, I don't know what this is all about. All black's pieces now on the queen side, trying to get a counterplay which he never has time for because white's too strong on the king's side. Black should be moving these pieces to the king side as quick as possible, so knight f6 was preferred. Now comes bishop h6, which is very strong. The trade of dark square bishops will drastically benefit white, and after bishop takes, which is practically forced, queen takes. Now knight g5 is coming, so queen c7, and now it comes, and black has two options here that avoid mate. If queen g7, which wasn't played, then rook takes f8 check. If queen takes, then there's mate in one. So king takes, rook f1 check. Now the white rook comes into the game, king g8 and queen h4, and there is nothing that can be done about rook f7, which is going to win on the spot. Instead comes rook takes f1 check, rook takes f1. This basically transposes though, because now the only move to stop mate is queen g7, and here white misses the same idea, which is queen h4. The same idea is in the previous position, and there is nothing that can be done to stop rook f7, which is going to I think win the queen, or h7 is going to collapse. But either way, it is completely crushing, and Stockfish gives it an advantage of over 5 pawns. But after queen takes g7 check, which does win a pawn, the advantage is only 2 pawns. King takes g7, rook f7 check, and now what black should just play, accept he's lost the pawn and play king g8, and then after rook takes h7, white is a pawn up with a much better position. But this isn't game over because Andy isn't quite a grandmaster yet. Well, you can say he's a GM because he's from Greater Manchester, but you know what I mean. And in fact, king g8 would get a box, by the way, because there's this joke we have in club that when you play when there's like the only move that the symbol to give in grandmaster games is like box, so we just said box with it all the time. So king g8 box should have been played, but instead king h6 was played, and there is a forced mate now. I will sit here in silence for 30 seconds and see if you can calculate your way to the end. Oh, a clue is that there is some silent but deadly moves in it. Let's go, 30 seconds. If you want more time, just stop the video. Five, 4, 3, 2, 1. What makes this mate really beautiful is that it's completely forced, but there's only one check in all the moves. The move is h4, first of all, protecting the knight and threatening rook to h7 mate. King h5 is forced, and now you take it, forcing the king down the board. When you're hunting the king, you should drive it as close as possible to your own attacking forces and away from its defenders. The thing that loses black this game is that there's not like the bishop never gets developed and the rook. He's playing like 2 pieces behind, and now here comes knight e2. And there is absolutely nothing that can be done to stop knight f3 and knight h2 mate. Absolutely nothing whatsoever. If someone finds something and thinks they've defied stockfish, please write in the comments box. But there is nothing that can be done. And I got sent the game where the mate's played until the mate. I'm not sure if black resigned here or not, but let's just see it anyway. And there we go, a beautiful mate with a couple of knights. And a very good finish and a very good win for Andy here. I mean, it wasn't much more than 1-3 to ECF last season, but now he's 1-3-7. No, he's 1-5-5. And a very good performance here. A nice little pretty mate, and it's put him in good shape in this tournament. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and feel free to leave any comments and thoughts. Thanks very much.